The licensure examination for teachers is perhaps the most participated professional exam in the Philippines. Here are some facts about the LET exam in the Philippines. To pass the exam, an examinee must obtain an average rating of not less than 75% and must have no rating of lower than 50% in any of the tests. Let's take a look at the facts about the assessment results last year. In the recent LET conducted last September 2019, only 31.30% of elementary teachers and 39.68% successfully passed the LET in September 2019. In March 2019 administration, only 27.28% of elementary teachers and 25.95% passed the LET in March. To be successful in the upcoming LET exam in March 29, 2020, it's really important that you know the test coverage of the exam. For elementary level, 40% is Gen Ed and 60% is Professional Ed. For secondary level, 20% is Gen Ed, 40% Professional Ed, and 40% Area of Specialization. For the general education coverage, it's the same for both elementary level and secondary level. And this covers English, Filipino, science, social sciences, and of course mathematics that covers these areas. Fundamentals of math, plane geometry, elementary algebra, statistics and probability. For the Gen Ed exam, calculator is no longer allowed. For this video tutorial to be effective, I will be using this format. 1. I will flash each question for 10 seconds and you may pause the video whenever you want to try out the problem. Next, I will explain each and give you some strategies on how to deal with specific questions. Are you ready? Here we go. Question number 1. Two buses leave the same station at 8 p.m. One bus travels north at a rate of 30 kph, and the other travels east at 40 kph. How many kilometers are the buses at 10 p.m.? So in this problem, we know that two buses traveled for 2 hours from 8 p.m. to 10 p.m. So let's assume that this point is the starting point, and one bus travels north at 30 kilometers per hour. So in 2 hours, what's the distance traveled by bus number 1? 60 kilometers, right? Because we need to do 30 times 2 hours. Now, for bus number 2, the distance will be how many kilometers? It's traveling at 40 kilometers per hour. 80 kilometers, right? Because we need to multiply 40 times 2. So this is 80 kilometers. And the question is, how many kilometers apart are the buses at 10 p.m.? So this means we need to find this missing distance. And we will label this C. Since one bus travels north and the other one travels east, we know that this will be a right triangle. And if that is a right triangle, 60 kilometers and 80 kilometers are called the legs of the right triangle. And C is the hypotenuse. And hypotenuse is always the longest side in a given right triangle. So, knowing that C is the largest side, which of the choices can you eliminate? C and D, right? Because the side can't be less than 80 kilometers. C has to be more than 80 kilometers. To solve for the missing sides of a right triangle, we're using the Pythagorean theorem. Are you familiar with the formula? C squared is equal to A squared plus B squared, where C is the hypotenuse. So in this problem, the missing side is C, so we have C squared. A and B could be any one of the legs. So 60 squared plus 80 squared. And simplifying this, 6 squared is 36, and then we have 2 zeros. 8 squared is 64, and then we have 2 zeros. Adding together, we have 10,000. To solve for the C, don't forget to get the square root of both sides. And we have here 4 zeros. So when you get the square root of 1, that's 1. You have 4 zeros, you get half the number of zeros. So that means it will be 100. Because 100 times 100 will give you 10,000. So the answer is letter B, 100 kilometers. Working with right triangles, it's really helpful to know the basic Pythagorean triple. And that is the sides 3, 4, and 5. These 3 sides will always form a right triangle. Now, if I will multiply each of these sides by 2, this gives me 6, 4 becomes 8, 5 becomes 10. What about if I multiply this by 10? 6 becomes 60, 8 becomes 80, and 10 becomes 100. So if you notice, in the 60 kilometers and 80 kilometers, we're expecting that the third side, or the hypotenuse, will be 100 kilometers. Question number 2. Calculate the mean absolute deviation of the following numbers 60, 80, 100, 75, and 95. So this type of question is either you know or you don't. So there's really no way to eliminate some of the choices. When we say mean absolute deviation, it involves multiple steps. The first thing that you need to do is calculate for the mean of the data. So given these numbers, to calculate for the mean, we need to add first these 5 data. So 60 plus 80 plus 100 plus 75 and then plus 95. And then we're dividing by 5 because there's 5 numbers. Without using calculators, 60 plus 80 is 140. 140 plus 100 is 240. And we know these 2 will add up to 170. So 240 and 170 will give us 410. Now, to get the mean, we need to divide 410 by 5. So 5 can go to 41 8 times. That's 40. We subtract, so that's 1. Bring down 0. So that means it's 2. So the mean is 82, which is our first step. Step number 2 is to calculate for the absolute deviation. And to do that, we need to subtract the mean from each of the data. So we have 60, 80, 100, 75, and 95. We need to subtract 82 from each of this to get the deviation. And then we need to get the absolute value of those answers. So 60 minus 82 is equal to negative 22. Absolute value is 22. 80 minus 82, negative 2. Absolute value is 2. 100 minus 82 is 18. Absolute value will always be positive because it's the distance of a number from 0. 75 minus 82 is negative 7. Absolute value is 7. 95 minus 82 is 13. And finally, the last step is to find the mean of these absolute value deviations. So to calculate for the MAD, or mean absolute deviation, we need to add 82 to 18, 7, 3, 13, and then divide it by 5. So 7 plus 3 is 20. That's 20. And that's 22. So 20, 20, 22, that's 62 over 5. And changing this to mixed number, we know that 5 can go into 62 12 times. 12 times 5 is 60. And the remainder is 2. So 12 and 2/5. The only thing that has a 12 is 12.4 because 2/5 is 0.4. So the answer for question number 2 is letter A. Again, to calculate for the mean absolute deviation, it requires 3 steps. Step 1 is to calculate for the mean. Step 2, you need to find the absolute deviations, meaning you subtract the mean to each of the data and then you take the absolute value. And number 3, you need to find the mean of the absolute deviations. Question number 3. Which of the following is the factorization of the binomial x squared minus 4 squared? So this binomial can be simplified as x squared minus 16 because 4 squared is 16. So here we can eliminate already the choices A because 4 times 2 is only 8. And here if you do distributive property, you will not get 16. So we only have 2 choices here, B and D. One thing that you need to remember about factoring x squared minus 16 is it is called a difference of squares. And when you're factoring difference of squares, there will be 2 pairs of parentheses. X squared, we're going to use x times x because that's x squared. For the minus 16, we need to use plus 4 and minus 4. And that is why the answer here should be letter D. Another example is if you have a squared minus b squared, you can factor it again as you need to do a times a, that will give you a squared. Then you need to do plus b times minus b because b times negative b will give you minus b squared. Also, if you have a squared minus 100, we can factor this difference of squares as a times a, that's 100, and one will always be plus, the other one is minus. For the 100, you need to use perfect square, 10 and 10. So plus 10 and minus 10. Last example. If I give you x squared minus 49, what will be your complete factors? Yeah, it's x plus 7 and x minus 7. That is only applicable if that is perfect square minus a perfect square. So for number 3, the answer is letter D, x minus 4 times x plus 4. Question number 4. What value of x will satisfy the equation below? Again, this is the type of question that you can't eliminate choices. So in this problem, the first thing that we need to do is distributive property. We need to do 0.4 times 5x 0.4 times 1470, and then we're going to solve for the x value. So 4 times 5 is 20, but there's a decimal point, so this becomes 2x. Now we need to multiply 1470 times 0.4. So 4 times 0 is 0. 4 times 7, 28. Carry 2. 4 times 4, 16. Plus 2, 18. Carry 1 again. 4 times 1 is 4. Plus 1 is 5. And there's one decimal place, so we have 588. So now we have 2x minus 588 is equal to x. Solving equations in one variable, we need to isolate the variable on one side. It doesn't matter whether you move it to the left or you move all the x to the right, for as long as you're doing the inverse operation. 2x is positive, so the inverse will be minus 2x to both sides. So this will be cancelled. We now have negative 588 is equal to x minus 2x means 1x minus 2x, which is negative 1x. Now we need to divide both sides by negative 1. So x value is positive 588, which is letter D. Question number 5. Which of the following has the greatest value? So to solve this problem, we need to simplify each expression using order of operations. So the expression that can be easily simplified is options B and D. So 3 to the third power means we need to do 3 times 3 times 3, and that's going to be 27. Option D, we need to do 3 plus 3, 6, 6 plus 3, 9, and 9 square means 9 times 9, and that is 81. So this means that it can't be letter B. For letter A, we can simplify 3 square as 9. 3 plus 3 is 6, and 6 square is 36. Now we need to add 3 plus 9, that's 12. 12 plus 36 is 48. Again, D is more than 48, so we can eliminate choice A. And now we have 50% chance of getting the right answer, either C or D. For letter C, 3 plus 3 is 6, and we need to square it. That's 36. Now we need to do 36 to the second power. For sure, if you multiply 36 by itself, that's going to be more than 81. So the answer should be letter C. But we will still double check the answer. So 36 square means 36 times 36. So if you multiply that, we have 36 times 36. 6 times 6 is 36. Carry 3. 6 times 3, 18. Plus 3, 21. Now we multiply 3 by 6, 18. Carry 2. 3 times 3, 9. Plus 2 is 10. So the answer is 1296. And indeed, letter C is bigger. Question number 6. The average of 5 different counting numbers is 20. What's the highest possible value that one of the numbers can have? So since there's 5 different numbers and the average is 20, that means that the sum here is 100. Now, which of the choices you think we can eliminate? A, right? Because for that to be 20, there should be 5 set of numbers that are 20. And here it says 5 different numbers, so it can never be A. Now, the next strategy that you could use is, since it's asking for the highest value, that we need to try out the biggest number, 90. So if the biggest number is 90, we should be able to get a sum of 4 numbers that is 10. That way they add up to 100. So we need 4 numbers. When you add them up together with 90, it should be 100. Can you think of 4 numbers that will add up to 10? What are they? Yes, it's possible. You have 1, 2, 3, and 4. 1 plus 2, 3 plus 3, 6 plus 4, 10 plus 90 is equal to 100. So the answer here is letter D, 90. Question number 7. Three brothers inherited a cash amount of 62,000, and they divided it among themselves in the ratio of 5 to 4 to 1. How much more is the largest share than the smallest share? So here, we know that the amount is 62,000. And this money is not equally divided among three brothers. Instead, the ratio is 5 to 4 to 1. So this type of problem, we need to find out first how much is one share. And to do that, since the ratio is 5 to 4 to 1, we need to add 5 plus 4 plus 1. That means that will be 10. So we will divide first 62,000 by 10 to calculate how much is one share. So 62,000 divided by 10, you can simply take out one of the zeros. So that is 6,200, which means this is the value for one share. And that's going to be the smallest share. Now, for the largest share is 5 shares because you have 5 to 4 to 1. This means we need to multiply 6,200 by 5. And that will give us 31,000. And we will subtract the smallest share because it's asking how much more is the largest share, 31,000, than the smallest share, 6,200. So subtracting these two numbers, we have 0. We have 0. 2 subtract from 10, that's 8. That is now 30 minus 6, that's 24. So that means the difference will be 24,800. And also, even before solving this problem, can you think of the choices that we can eliminate right away? Letter A, right? It can't be letter A because the amount is only 62,000. Is it possible to get a difference of 75,000? Can't be, right? So the answer for this question number 7 is letter C, 24,800. Question number 8. What is the missing terms in the series 5, 20, 80, and so on? So in dealing with this type of question, you need to look for patterns. Let's take a look at the first and second term. 5 becomes 20. 20 becomes 80. What do you think is the pattern? Multiplying by 4, right? Because 5 times 4 is 20. 20 times 4 is 80. And if you continue the pattern, 80 times 4 will give you 320. And if you look at the choices, choice D is the only one with 320 as the next term. So that means that should be the answer. And if you still want to check, continuing the process, 320 times 4 gives you 1280 times 4 again to get the next term, 1,280 times 4. We're expecting to get 5,120. 4 times 0 is 0. 4 times 8 is 32, carry 3. 4 times 2 is 8, plus 3 is 11, carry 1. So 4 times 1 is 4, plus 1 is 5. So yes, it's 5,120. So the answer here is letter D. Question number 9. At what rate per annum should 2,400 be invested so that it will earn an interest of 800 pesos in 8 years? So for this question, you really need to memorize this formula to calculate for the interest. And interest is equal to principal times the rate times the time. So in this problem, the interest is $800, so we plug in 800. The principal is the amount of money you invested, or the initial money. In this case, it's the 2,400. So 2,400 times the rate, which we don't know, that's what we're trying to solve. And the time here is 8 years. So we need to put times 8. In solving complex problem like this, you could divide first both sides by 8, because when you divide 800 by 8, 8 divided by 8 is 1, so you have 100. 8 and 8 will cancel out. Then you have 2400 times r. Doing the inverse operation, we need to divide both sides by 2400. And this means that we can cancel out the zeros. So that is 1 over 24. Can you estimate the percentage or the decimal equivalent of 1 over 24? If it's 1 over 25, that will be 4%, because 25 can go to 104 times. So that means our answer here should be really close to 4%. And the option that goes with 4% is letter C. Now let's verify if we get that 4% when dividing 1 by 24. So 1 is the inside, or the dividend, and 24 is the divisor. So we need to add zeros. 24 can go into 10, 0 times. 24 can go into 100, 4 times. That's 96. And that is subtracting to get a 4, bring down 0. We know that's going to be more than 4%. So you don't have to continue. And the answer is going to be 4.17%. Question number 10. The area of a rectangle is x squared plus 2x minus 8. If its length is x plus 4, what is its width? Can you still recall the formula to calculate for the area of a rectangle? Area of a rectangle is equal to length times the width. So in this problem, the length is given, and it is x plus 4. We need to multiply it by the width to get that x squared plus 2x minus 8. Now, you can do process of elimination here. What do you need to multiply with 4 to get negative 8? It should be a negative number, right? And there's only one choice that has a negative. It is letter B, x minus 2. So we are expecting that the answer here will be x minus 2. And let's verify that using distributive property. So when you do distributive property, you need to do x times x, that is x squared. X times minus 2, or negative 2, that's negative 2x. Now we will distribute 4. 4 times x, we have 4x. And we have 4 times negative 2, that is negative 8. Now we can combine like terms. Negative 2x plus 4x is 2x. So we have x squared plus 2x minus 8. And indeed, this is the area of this rectangle. So the answer for question number 10 is letter B.